They tried to steal his family land, but he outsmarted them all. The sun rose over the quiet village like a slow breath of fire, spilling gold across the dusty fields. It touched the earth with the same warmth that had nurtured generations before. To most people, it was just another dawn. But for Arjun, that sunrise carried the weight of 1,000 yesterdays. It was the land of his ancestors, soil that held the memory of his grandfather's sweat, his father's footsteps, and his own dreams. For decades, this land had been the beating heart of his family. It was where every meal had come from, every festival had been celebrated, and every life lesson had been learned. But now it was under threat. The whispers had begun months earlier, murmurs of powerful men trying to claim it, of false documents and hidden deals. Arjun had ignored them at first. After all, how could anyone steal what generations had built with their bare hands? He soon learned that the world did not work on fairness. It worked on power. One morning, a letter arrived bearing the government seal. The words were cold and sharp. His family land had been transferred. The claim stated that the property had been abandoned for over a decade, making it open for development. The name at the bottom of the page chilled him. Vikram Sinha, a wealthy contractor, a man known for swallowing farmlands and turning them into concrete jungles. For a moment, the world stood still. The sound of birds faded, replaced by the pounding of Arjun's heart. He could almost hear his father's voice. Never let the land leave your hands, son. It is not just soil. It is your spine. Arjun knew what he had to do. He went to the district office, clutching his family's old deeds and faded records. But the clerks only smiled, the kind of smile that hides corruption. The papers he presented were outdated. The new records showed Vikram's company as the owner. It's legal, they said, their tone empty of empathy. But Arjun saw what they didn't: fear in their eyes, fear of power, of influence, of men who wore gold watches and gave orders that could erase a lifetime of labor. That night, Arjun sat by the edge of the field, the smell of earth filling his lungs. The soil felt alive beneath his fingers. His grandfather's grave was nearby, marked by a simple stone. The land whispered stories of resilience, and in that silence Arjun made a vow. They could forge papers, they could bribe officials, but they would never outsmart the truth. The next morning he began his battle, not with anger but with patience. He started digging through old records, speaking to retired officers, searching for a trail. He found that the supposed transfer was based on a missing file, one that had conveniently disappeared 5 years ago. But fate, it seemed, had hidden a secret in plain sight. In an old wooden chest buried under years of dust in his grandfather's room, Arjun found an envelope sealed with wax. Inside was a handwritten agreement from 1958, signed by the district magistrate of that time, officially granting the land to his grandfather's name forever, with a clause preventing any third-party sale without the family's consent. The document carried a seal that couldn't be forged, the original colonial stamp. It was a lifeline, but it was only part of the puzzle. He needed more than proof. He needed a strategy. Vikram was powerful, ruthless, and connected. A direct confrontation would destroy him, so Arjun chose a different path. He began to act quietly, pretending to give up. He allowed the developer's men to enter the land, to measure and mark it. He even nodded when they warned him to move out soon. But behind that calm face, he was gathering his evidence, photographing the illegal activity, recording their threats, documenting every lie. Weeks passed. The villagers whispered that Arjun had lost hope. Even his relatives told him to sell whatever dignity remained and accept the money being offered. But Arjun knew the storm he was building. When the bulldozers finally arrived, the land trembled. Dust rose into the sky as machines roared to life. The workers waited for the signal to dig. But before they could take the first bite of earth, a convoy of white vehicles appeared on the road. Government jeeps, police cars, and media vans. Arjun had sent his evidence to every news channel in the district. The reports had already gone viral that morning. Corruption scandal exposed, and developer steals farmers' land through fake documents. The headlines blazed across screens. The officials who had helped Vikram began panicking, denying their involvement. As cameras rolled, Arjun stood tall at the edge of his field, holding the 1958 agreement high in his hand. The district magistrate, a new one, honest and alerting, arrived to verify it himself. He compared the seal, the handwriting, the archival number. Within minutes, he confirmed it. The land legally and eternally belonged to Arjun's family, The media captured the moment. The nation watched as one man defeated greed not through violence or protest, but through intelligence and persistence. Vikram's empire began to crumble. His lawyers fled, his allies turned silent. The very land he tried to steal became the symbol of his downfall. The government revoked his contracts and launched an inquiry that exposed his years of deception. And as for Arjun, he didn't celebrate with pride or anger. He simply walked back to his field, took a handful of soil and pressed it to his forehead. He whispered to the wind, thanking the ancestors who had built this legacy with their hands and faith. The villagers gathered around him, their faces shining with respect. Many had lost their lands in the same way, and saw in Arjun's victory the proof that truth could still win. He shared his documents openly, teaching them how to reclaim their rights. One by one, families began to rise, armed not with weapons but with wisdom. The land became more than a farm again. It became a movement. Seasons passed. Crops grew tall and strong, their roots deep in the same soil that had once been threatened. The house was repaired, the fences rebuilt, and the family name restored. Arjun's mother, once burdened by fear, smiled again, her eyes reflecting peace she hadn't known for years. At dusk, Arjun often stood at the boundary of his land, watching the setting sun turn the fields into molten gold. He would think about how close he had come to losing everything, and how that very loss had given him strength he never knew he had. He understood something profound. That land is not just earth. It is legacy. It is the story of struggle, endurance, and love passed down from those who refuse to surrender. It teaches patience, and in that patience lies victory. He had outsmarted the ones who believed money could bend the truth. He had shown that wisdom, courage, and persistence were far more powerful than greed. And though the world would soon forget his name, the soil would never. It would remember the man who refused to let it be stolen, who fought quietly, intelligently, and with the heart of a warrior who never raised his voice but let his actions roar. Years later, when children in the village would ask their parents about that patch of land, they would be told of a man who stood alone against the powerful, who lost everything but his faith, and who proved that even a single determined soul could bring justice where everyone else had given up. His story would travel far beyond the fields, carried by the wind, told in classrooms, retold on screens, and remembered as a legend. Because sometimes the greatest victories don't come from strength. They come from the mind and heart working together, unshaken by fear. And so, under the same golden sun that had witnessed generations rise and fall, Arjun's land remained untouched, pure, and eternal. A living proof that truth, no matter how buried, always finds its way back to the light. The land lived. The legacy endured. And Arjun, the farmer who outsmarted them all, became the heartbeat of every soul who ever dared to stand up for what was right.